Information without transformation is just inspiration. But if you have transformation, then information, it equals.
So we sat down one night and I kind of led the discussion of like, what would our ideal lifestyle look like? What would it look like if we could work from home? What would that look like? And what would have to be true in order to make that happen?
Stop waiting for when and just go, because the gift is in. Welcome to the All In Podcast, where we talk to businessmen who are husbands and fathers. We talk about faith, family, fitness, and finance, all areas of life and how they all affect each other. So stay tuned for today's episode. Today on the All In Podcast, we have Kellen Klein from The Savvy Couple. Met him at Funnel Hacking Live 2025. Kellen, go ahead and introduce yourself and what you do to the audience.
Yeah, I'm Kellen, and my wife and I started a personal finance blog back in 2016 and kind of rode the wave there. And we kind of used it to quit our jobs, reach financial freedom, impact thousands of people's lives. And we basically teach people how to quit their 9-to-5 job and reach financial freedom quicker than you ever expected.
That is awesome. That's such a big niche, an important niche to find freedom. I met him. We were sitting like right in front of him, a little poke. We got a better seat than him. But I looked back and he has a shirt that says freedom on it. It's like, I want to talk to that guy, because that's, we do it all in, right? So what brought you on to this journey with Savvy Couple and leaving your 9-to-5 and all that? Like, what'd you leave that was so bad that you had to?
Yeah, good question. So I'll kind of go back until, I wanted to be a police officer from the very young age of 6 years old. I found a $100 bill on the ground and it said, I picked it up after my mom and I went out for lunch, and it said, "In God we trust" on it. And I was brought up Catholic with some good faith. And I said, we got to turn this in. This is not my money. I want to make sure it gets back to the right person. So anyways, I brought it to the police station. They made a big deal about it. Like, you're an amazing little man. Like, thank you so much for turning this in. If no one comes and claims it in 90 days, you can come back and we'll give it back to you. So, I was counting down the days, 90 days. And, no one came to claim it. So I went back in, got a hat, got a badge, got in the newspaper, like the whole shebang. And I was like, I want to be a police officer because those guys are awesome. And they do what's right and they keep bad guys off the roads and all this stuff. So that's where my dream of becoming a police officer came about. Went to college with my wife. My wife and I are high school sweethearts. We started dating when we were 14 years old, kind of fell in love pretty quickly, and the rest is history. And then went to college together, started a community college, went to a 4-year college to finish up, got a business degree, got out into the working world with about $40,000 worth of student loan debt. And we had this big dream that I was going to be a police officer. She was going to be a teacher. She was going to have summers off with our kids, and, life was going to be merry. I bounced around probably 5 or 6 different jobs after college, and then finally got a position as a jail deputy. So it was like a stepping stone onto road patrol. There's 2,000 applicants, and I was one of 25 that got hired. Very, very intense process. And I was pumped. Like, my dream job of becoming, getting into law enforcement and eventually becoming a police officer was going to happen. So went all in on that. Everything was awesome for like the first year and a half. And then slowly I just began to see the writing on the wall with law enforcement, especially just for myself personally. With just, really long hours, not going to be good for the family. The divorce rates are really high. Nights and weekends you're working, holidays, forced overtime. All this stuff just kept piling on. And my wife was still in school, so I was the main breadwinner. And basically, eventually, I fell into this really deep, dark depression and lost all hope. And I just was like thinking to myself, like, is this really what life's going to be? Is me in this, this jail with 53 inmates just by myself, super lonely all day, having to put on this freaking superhero uniform and, pretend like I'm this badass guy. And I wasn't. So yeah, fell into this really deep depression, and God saved me from that. God built me back up from that. And there was a moment that my life just transformed in a minute.
What was that like? Because there's going to be people listening to this that are in that spot right now and they feel hopeless. They don't know how to get to that moment where God can set them free.
Yeah. So we kind of talked about this at Funnel Hacker Live, and I appreciate you listening. And I've really stepped into, at Funnel Hacker Live, it was all about stepping into your calling. And I've really stepped into not being afraid to share my story and sharing it more because it's so powerful. So yeah, fell into the depression, and I just was looking for anything to give me hope. So I started listening to a music station called K-Love, which is just a Christian music station. It's, I think it's a national music station. And, I just getting hope every day to get into work and make it through the day and realize that there's more to life than just a job. And there's one day, and I had to like, I've never dealt with depression before. I'm always a, go lucky, happy guy, super optimistic. So something was off, and I didn't even know what depression was at the time of going through it because I never experienced it before. I just felt like completely a shell of myself. So there's one day I was pumping myself up, ready to go to work, and I was listening to I was on my computer upstairs trying to just pump myself up before work, and I put on We Believe by the Newsboys. And I had it blasting, and I was just trying to get excited, and I'm listening to the lyrics and I'm watching it, and all of a sudden a police officer comes by the screen, and in that moment I just saw myself as that police officer, putting my hands in the air and finally just letting my guard down and saying, yes, Lord, yes, I need you. I cannot do this alone. I am broken. I've needed you this whole time. I've been blaming you for my situation, but it's over. I need you. I want you in my heart for the rest of my life. And in that moment, I said yes to my core soul, and in my heart, I fell to my knees with my hands in my ears, just bawling down my face, and my whole body went numb, and everything, every stress, every anxiety, every hopelessness I had just lifted off my shoulders within an instant, and my life changed completely. It was the most powerful day of my life, or the most powerful day. Most powerful day of my life. It was incredible. I wish I could relive it over and over. I do by telling it. And, from that moment on, I went into work as a jail deputy for the next 6 months, and I was a completely different person. And I was able to be that light of hope in that place. That's, obviously a super depressing place to work and be for inmates. Within a day or two, I had inmates coming up to me and jail deputies and upper staff just being like, hey, what's different about you? Something's different. Like, you are way happier, and like, you just feel so different. And people were asking, are you a Christian? And I was like, yeah, let me tell you how it happened. So that kind of happened. Long story short, I was saved by God, and he kind of directed me, and I let him guide the rest of my life. And he basically told me I need to get out of that jail and start my own business and be in charge of my own time and my own money and my own freedom. And that's the moment that my wife and I decided to start a blog and teach personal finance, something we were really good at and something people always asked us about, and kind of grew it from there.
That's awesome. So that moment of surrender, you realize the whole time God was reaching down to you, but you weren't willing to allow him in. And he doesn't force himself on you. So as soon as you let go, God fills you.
100%.
That's so powerful.
100%. Yep.
Awesome. So you have kids.
Yes.
And you're a husband and you're a business owner. We
Yes.
call that the trifecta of insanity.
Nice.
So talk about that, being a business owner, being married, and having kids, and how that journey has been.
Yeah. When we started the business, we did not have kids at the time. So that was a huge blessing in disguise by itself, just having that extra time. Kids, they suck up time in a good way. But when you're trying to build a business, it was definitely an advantage to not have children already. So, we started the blog, and then started the Savvy Couple. And then I believe like 6 months later, no, it must have been almost a year later, we had our first daughter, Callie. So that entire year, Brittany stayed home for the 3 months that she got. I think she got extended an extra month, which I think is pathetic. That's how much moms get in the U.S. But besides that, so she went back to work as a teacher, and I'm grinding on the business online. So I was a stay-at-home dad with a newborn, trying to replace my income as a jail deputy, and just grinding out the days with very little sleep and lots of coffee. So it was definitely a balancing act. But that's the year that I took it from, probably like 50,000 over 6 figures that year, being a stay-at-home dad. And so then from there, it was kind of balancing it and getting it to the point where, and it was awesome that my wife was a teacher. She had a lot of free time during the summer. So that summer, we kind of just grinded it out, and we made a pact and sat down with each other and said, hey, if we can get this thing to $10,000 per month for 6 months in a row, what would it look like if you were to leave teaching, leave your pension, leave your insurance, leave your, the stability of that, and come full time as with me on the online business? And she said, yeah, let's see if that could work. And I'm comfortable at $10,000 a month. Let's do that. Our expenses were a lot less back then. So the sixth month, I think it was May, She was about to put in her resignation, and or it would have been June, but the month before she put in her resignation, we made more than she made her entire year teaching within a month with the online business. And that was just like another strike from God of like, you guys are doing this. Like, this is it. Brittany needs to join you.
Just through the blog?
Yeah, through the blog, through the online business, The Savvy Couple, so through social media and the blog, yes.
So talk to people like me who have no idea how that would work.
Yeah.
How do you monetize
For
that?
sure.
And how do you
So,
build a brand with that?
Yeah, so a blog is like each blog post is basically like a marketing piece, and they're specifically designed to get people to come to the blog and solve a problem, and then the problem that we solve, the solution is going to be an affiliate offer. So whether it's an online course or an online program or a budgeting app, when someone comes to the website and they read the article and we're either reviewing it or we're just doing a roundup of like 10 best budgeting apps, they'll click the best one that matches their personality and their kind of setup, and then they'll click the link, and then if they sign up, we get a commission back. So there's kind of 4 or 5 different ways you can make money with a blog, and this is with social media too. It's going to be affiliate marketing is probably the easiest because you don't have to create your own product or offer. It's already there. You just promote other people's that are good, and you get paid a commission. And then you get paid through display ads. So we have display ads on the blog. So every time someone's like scrolling by, there's ads. So we get paid from those. And then there's sponsorships. So if a company wants to get in front of our audience and our audience matches their ideal target audience as well, they'll pay us a certain amount to have a blog post and a social media post all wrapped up into a package. And then there's also selling your own digital products and services. So we sell our own digital products, and we have a couple programs as well that we sell. So it's kind of like a pretty diversified way, but the blog is basically just traffic into the offers. If that makes sense.
Awesome.
Yeah,
that's super cool. And
cool.
Is that what you teach other people to do, or do you teach other people to make money online just through affiliates without the blog and all of that?
So we used to teach people how to make money blogging. It's definitely, the game's changed a ton with AI and just over the last couple of years. Like, we kind of hit it, I think, at a really good point in 2016 where people were still reading personal blogs. I feel like people are reading less and less now with AI. So we don't teach it. We haven't taught that in probably 3 or 4 years, but we do teach affiliate marketing. And it's more so using social media, creating content on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, building an audience, and then having a system that markets and promotes the affiliate offers for you.
That's awesome. So from that, what freedom did that create in your life to be able to make that kind of money? So just to give some context, I came from poverty, total scarcity. And in that place, in that culture, that Christian culture, conservative Christian homeschool culture, we looked at people that had money as bad.
Yep.
Because they're not, if they have a big house or a nice car or any of this stuff, then they're self-centered because they're not giving it to starving children in Africa, right?
Yeah.
And so we elevated our poverty and lack of ability to make money as those of virtue, of faith. And I think a lot of people are in that culture, in that spot of scarcity and poverty. And so you coming out of that, what did that actually create in your life for results and connection with your family and time, freedom, and impact?
Yeah, so the whole goal all along was to have time freedom. That's the most important thing. Like, at the end of the day, the money doesn't matter. The money's just a tool to get you more time and to get you more freedom. So I actually grew up in a house that was, very middle class. My dad was an engineer. My mom was a school counselor. We actually live in my childhood home. My parents built their dream home, and then my dad lost his job, and we had to move out and downsize. And somehow this came back on the market when we had perfect timing of having enough income, and we were both working full time together, and it came back on the market 10 years later after my parents sold it and we bought it. So that's another incredible story and blessing as well. But the money was never, for Brittany, my wife, she definitely came from more of a scarcity mindset of not poverty, but definitely not, single mother working her butt off trying to make ends meet. So she definitely has the scarcity mindset. I, on the other hand, had more of an abundance mindset that was taught to me growing up, which is incredible. And what a blessing to have parents that, pass that down to me so I can keep that going and break those chains. So I've really been focusing on Brittany and helping her break the scarcity mindset and break those chains and really build the abundance mindset. But one of the things that Brittany actually brought to me a long time ago, this would have been like 5 years ago, of like, you can only save so much money in your budget before your life becomes miserable and you're really living like poverty life. But you can always make more money. You can always make more money. There's so much opportunity out there that there's always possibility to make more money. And I think the important thing with, continuing to make more and more money, we went from making $0 on the blog for 9 months, and then I made $50. And that's when I went to Brittany and said, hey, I need to quit and do this full time. It was like, I had to. There's no other option. I was going to make it happen. It was either that or pretty much die in the jail. So there's no real turning back from that. But then, we quickly made it into a six-figure business, a multiple six-figure business. And then the last 2 years, with her business and my own, we've been able to do 7 figures, which is insane to say. And, the money, I appreciate that. The money has really, it's really enabled us to have complete freedom and to really reach financial freedom quickly and really focus on the impact and serving others and leaving a legacy and, continuing to give it to our church religiously. And, I just have big plans for giving financially to people and organizations long-term. One of my big goals is to be able to donate $1 million in my lifetime. So I'm kind of working towards that. And that's one of my big whys.
That's powerful. Very cool. So talk about scarcity, because when people talk about scarcity versus abundance, they tend to think it's just money. The reality is it affects every area of your life. So speak to the people who maybe are in scarcity, but they don't think it's a bad thing because it makes them frugal, etc. But where's that when that bleeds over into their relationships, their energy giving, their purpose, their calling, all those things? What does that look like when someone's in scarcity?
Yeah, when me and you really talked at Funnel Hacker Live, I really bought into the all in. I love that mindset and that shift, that it's all aspects of life that you can go all in on. And I think, the scarcity mindset, especially with money, it prevents you from seeing opportunities. It prevents you from taking action. It prevents you from having an impact and living in this small shell of yourself versus going all in and stepping into your calling. And I think that alone is really powerful. And like you said, it kind of bleeds into all aspects of life, because if you have a scarcity mindset with money, you're going to have a scarcity mindset with relationships. Maybe you're not willing to go all in with your marriage, or maybe you're not married and you're afraid to date because you don't want to get hurt, and you're not willing to put your heart all into it and put in the time and effort that it takes to have a thriving marriage. Same thing with fitness, like having that mindset of like, I can't have a six pack. I can't be strong. I'm always, I was born with big bones and I'm always going to be fat. It's just a limiting mindset, and you got to break through that to really reach your full potential and go all in on all those aspects of life.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you grew up in more of an abundance mentality, you said. I can't relate to that because I was so far on the opposite. How do you create that in your home?
Abundance?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, my parents, they had great jobs, and money, besides the time my dad lost a job, money was never really, we talked about it a lot. We talked about budgeting, we talked about investments. And I was kind of obsessed with that. I loved to talk about money with my parents and kind of look at their investments and go over them at a very young age. But personally, I always thought if I could be a mechanic making $50,000 a year, I'd be so pumped. I'd be so happy. I never in a million years thought I'd be making the amount of money we're making now. So it's definitely, I didn't have like a poverty scarcity mindset growing up, but it wasn't a huge abundance. Like, you can make 7 figures a year, no problem. Like that's something I definitely had to step into and become that person in order to do that. But yeah, to bring abundance into our family, we talk about it a lot. We talk about why we run our businesses to our girls, and it's about creating memories. It's about having the freedom to go on vacations when we want. It's about being able to spend as much time as we possibly can together while the girls are young, and, set the hours that we want. And if it's a Friday, during the summer, we take Fridays off and we work Monday through Thursday, and we just work, harder those 4 days, and Fridays are fun day Fridays with the family. And we'll go travel, and we'll go spend time together with other family members. And it's really awesome. And then, another example is we try to bless people from time to time, and if we're out to dinner and the girls, I'll ask them, like, do you feel like we should bless this waiter? And they'll say, yeah, we should. And then I'll literally say, how much do you think we should give them? Sometimes they're like, let's give them $5,000. And I'm like, okay, calm down. So we have those conversations, then we'll bless them, and they'll be able to see us blessing people out in public. And, that's a really good way to show that, we have an abundance of money. We want to be able to bless other people with it as well. And I think just them growing up in this environment where we are home all the time together as a family, and Dada doesn't have to go out to work a 9 to 5 and come back, and have limited time with them. When our daughter's home at 3 p.m., we try to be completely done with work and go all in as a family and spend time together.
So good, man. That's beautiful. So, the children giving numbers. Funny story here.
Sweet, let me hear it.
Yeah, it was a week or so ago. I asked my 4-year-old. I hadn't done my workout yet. It was supper time. So I come in for supper, and I was like, how many push-ups should I do with you on my back? And she's like, 30. I was like, okay. So she climbs on my back, and I do 30 push-ups. I figured I could do 30 push-ups with her on my back. And then I rest a minute or two, and all right, how many should I do now? 32.
Oh, man.
All right, I'll try. So banged out 32.
Nice.
Waited another couple minutes. How many should I do now? 90. I'm like, well, I'll do that in a couple sets. And because I can't do 90 with you in one set, but we'll do 90. And then she went to her counting book, and she opens up her counting book, and she finds the number 44. And she's like, can you do that many? I'm like, well, I don't know. We'll try. We'll see. So I banged out 45.
Nice.
Yeah, it's so precious for our kids to pick numbers. They don't know what it means.
For sure.
They just say a number.
Oh, yeah.
No,
whatever comes to their mind.
Understanding to them.
That's awesome. Good for you, man. That's impressive.
That's great, yeah. So we talk at All In about faith, family, fitness, and finances, and how every domain affects every other domain. And obviously we've been talking about finances quite a bit and how that's affected your faith and ability to give, your family, and being able to impact your family culture by having the time freedom. So let's take another domain and let's talk about fitness. I don't know anything about your fitness or your journey of health, but I know every domain affects every other domain. So talk about your fitness journey and how that's changed your life.
Yeah. So college, so high school, I played some sports, didn't play them all the way through. I was kind of doing online business stuff in high school as well, and I met my wife and kind of got distracted from sports, but that was a good thing, a good blessing in disguise. But in college, I definitely let myself go and got comfortable because I had my fiance at the time, and so I wasn't out kind of finding my dream girl. And then when I got into the jail with the depression, I completely stopped working out, stopped caring what I looked like. I went from I believe 185 to up to 215 or 220. Just completely out of shape, and that definitely led to the depression as well. I didn't feel comfortable in my body. I didn't feel confident at all going to work and having to be in charge of 53 inmates. So that was really tough to look myself in the mirror and be like, what have you done? What have you let yourself get to? And it was a wake up call when I saw, I think I topped 220, and I was like, this is ridiculous. This is insane. I'm only 5'11", so that's a lot of weight. So then after I got out of the jail and kind of reinvented myself and kind of built myself back up, definitely have taken fitness pretty seriously. My wife and I, we were working out of the gym, and I have high school buddies that I still hang out with locally and play sports with, and they're big into lifting. But we ended up building a dream home gym the last 2 years in our basement. So we've taken fitness to the next level. I just bought a cold plunge, which has been incredible to wake up and do after post-workout. We have a sauna, so we have both those health things covered. Health is wealth. And then, we have the home gym with a weight rack and cables and treadmill. And so I try to get in the gym at least 4 times a week. And on the off days, I'll try to do some cardio. But it's definitely been a journey, and definitely at first, it was a struggle to get the motivation to get in and do it and see the progress. But now it's second nature. Now if I miss a workout, I'm like, what the heck is wrong? Oh yeah, I didn't work out today. I got to go, tame the mind and go work out. So it's been awesome to remove that friction with a gym and have it in the basement, have it super convenient, and see our girls be able to watch us work out is huge as well. To stay healthy as a family and have it be a whole thing that we incorporate everyone with. So yeah, it's been quite the journey, but definitely love my workouts.
Cold plunge and sauna. You're just the classic influencer now, right?
For sure, dude. Yeah.
So when you took your health seriously, you started showing up, committed in the gym, you saw the results, you became the person that you could look in the mirror and like who you saw looking back at you. How did that affect your family domain, to pick one?
Yeah, I think it starts with fitness, honestly, man. I think when you can look yourself in the mirror and be proud of how you look and be proud of how you feel, you're just a better husband. You're a better leader in your business. You're a better father. You're a better friend. The confidence you get from going in the gym and doing hard things and seeing yourself progress, I think is unmatched. And I think the dopamine that you get and the release of stress, especially as a business owner and a husband and a leader, I think it's a must for all all men to get in the gym and move weights around and really release the power within them.
Yeah. So my wake-up call with working out was actually when it tied to spirituality, because I grew up in a very spiritual environment, right? And I always thought that people that worked out were like gym rats. They're just full of ego, full of themselves, etc. And I didn't have the concept of what it could actually do for you. I just thought it was a selfish thing, right? What woke me up was when I realized that everything we do on this earth is with this body. Your ability to provide for your family, your energy to show up after work, your ability to pray for somebody else is all done with this body and this body alone.
Yep.
And yet we take it for granted, and we actually, typically what we do is we make excuses, and a lot of times we're really good at making excuses is we'll look at people that are doing what we should be doing, and we will downplay it as a bad thing, right? So like me, I would look at the people in the gym and just be like, oh, they're full of ego. They just want to be shredded and get selfies.
Yeah, totally.
I didn't realize the result that could happen from that. And then going down that journey of fitness and taking it seriously and seeing my body change, and more than my body change, my energy changed. The way I felt about myself, the way I thought of myself, knowing that you can do hard things, all of that changed every area of my life. And I was actually just a few months ago looking at some before and after photos. I'm a slim, small guy, right? I'm 5'8", I'm not even 5'11". And so I'm a small guy. I was a lot smaller. And looking at the before and after photos, it's like those are two different people. Not because of the muscle sizes, but because of the journey to put on 20 pounds of muscle. It's who you become in the process that is so powerful.
Yep. Amen. Love that. Absolutely. I want to also touch on the importance of food. I think, fitness is like, if you had to put numbers on it, it's probably 80-20. You got to get in the gym and wear out your body, and it's going to help you sleep and help you, like all the benefits that you said. But I think that if you're feeding your body garbage, and that's the results you're going to get as well. I think it's so important to eat what God put on this earth and not the processed junk that's in all the grocery stores, and really be intentional about the food that you bring into the house and the food that you're feeding your kids and the food that, you're preparing for your family. I think it's super important. And we've kind of gone on a journey with that. My daughter has an autoimmune disease called PANS, which basically she has inflammation in her brain, and she basically changed overnight. And we've been on a journey with healing her, and that's part of having the sauna and reducing inflammation and getting toxins out. But it's really been the same thing, like 80-20. It's everything that we're eating is so, so important in her recovery. So it kind of goes hand in hand with, my fitness and our whole family's fitness.
That's powerful. So speak to people who don't think it's possible to eat that healthy and have unprocessed foods. Like, where do you get this stuff?
Yeah, right. It's
money, by the way.
It's tough, and it doesn't cost as much as people think. It's definitely going to cost you more expensive stuff to get gluten-free and all that stuff. But we just try to eat organic stuff. We try to have foods that, I'm all about systems and keeping things as simple as possible. Try to have foods that have 5 or less ingredients that we actually understand and know what the heck they mean. It's not a list that's 20 long that you're like, I've never heard of that in my life. Like, why would you put that in your body? And then, yeah, it's really just keeping it simple, like eating stuff that God put on the earth. So your proteins are just lean, chicken, beef, turkey. And then, as far as your fruits and vegetables, just, make sure that you have those out and about. And my wife kind of preps the week. So we have like a container in the fridge that's got tons of vegetables already cut up, and blueberries and strawberries and raspberries. And we kind of take it out and plop it on the counter when we want a snack. And we've really dove into eating way cleaner the last 3 months. And it's been life-changing. My sleep, I struggled with sleep for my whole life. And the last 3 months, we've really dialed in our supplements and our eating and my sleep. I went from getting 4.5, 5 hours of sleep a night to 7.5, 8 hours. And that's life-changing.
I think sleep is number one for fitness domain, personally.
Yep. It's the magic pill.
Even ahead of gym and all this other stuff, because if you're not getting sleep, you're not rebuilding, you're not gaining. It's so key.
100%. Yep.
And you're saying your food can have a massive impact on your sleep.
Yep. It's had a big impact on my sleep, and I think I do fasting as well, intermittent fasting. We usually stop eating around 6 o'clock, and then I won't eat again until noon the next day. So having that the window of letting your body heal itself and get rid of toxins and really have a good night's sleep on an empty stomach, so that it can work in other areas besides the digestion, has been huge. And then
every day.
Pretty much every day, yeah. Yeah.
And you still have plenty of energy?
Tons. The only thing I haven't figured out yet, so I'll work out empty stomach and everything as well in the morning. The only thing I haven't figured out is at noon when I have my meal. It's obviously a pretty big one since I haven't eaten. I'm pretty much starving at that point. I'll have like a crash afterwards, but I've started taking apple cider vinegar beforehand, about 30 minutes before the meal, and then like the insulin levels stay the same and my energy doesn't dip after that.
Wow.
I've found that I'm not ready to eat in the morning, and I kind of just go off intuition, and I've found that like around noon, so I don't even worry about eating in the morning. I just kind of do my routine, and when it's time to eat, we kind of come together and have a big meal. My wife kind of does the same thing too, and it's just become second nature to us, honestly.
I feel so hungry in the mornings. I get up early, and by the time my family eats breakfast, I'm basically eating lunch.
Yeah, wow. You're getting up early then.
I get up at 4:30.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, like yesterday I got up at 3:30, but that was just because I woke up early and felt good, so I just got up.
Nice.
Yeah, but my family, they get up a little later, and so they're eating breakfast at like 9:30, 10.
Yeah.
By the time the girls get up and breakfast is made and all that stuff, so.
Yeah.
But then,
cool.
I have to eat breakfast separate because I don't. Maybe I'm just a wuss, but
no, I think the biggest thing is you're way leaner than me. I'm trying to lean out. I'm in my cutting phase now. So I have extra fat that my body can eat off of during those 18 hours. So it makes it pretty easy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I'm actually trying to bulk right now.
Okay, nice. We're doing the opposite.
Very harder than I expected.
I've heard the same thing. I've heard that gaining weight is just as hard, if not harder, than losing weight.
I would agree.
Which is, for me, like I could gain weight so easily because my appetite is usually, unstoppable sometimes, especially if I'm working out hard. So losing weight's always been harder for me and staying super lean.
Yeah. So let's talk about passions. Like, what are you passionate about in life? Because if you have all this freedom that you've created, then what? Right?
Right. Yeah. I'm definitely super passionate about impacting others. I want to take the blessings that God's given us in our life and the mentors that he's kind of put in our lap to help us build our business and really turn back around and lift those other people up behind us and help them up the ladder. So I'm really focusing on impact lately and figuring that out and stepping into sharing my story more and really trying to get as many people that want to, and, they're stuck in their job. And, one thing that you said to me, and I think us running into each other at Funnel Hacker Live was divine intervention as well. I think, for the audience listening, our conversation was extremely, extremely powerful. Daniel, you turned around and talked to us and asked us to go out to dinner, and it didn't work out the first night because we had other friends that we had plans with. And I was like, you know what? I could have just been like, we'll never see them again. I'm not going to plan it. But I was like, I need to talk to this guy. Like, I want to go out to lunch. I want to meet this guy. I really want to talk to him. So the next day, I think we hooked up for lunch, and I got to share my testimony with you. And during that, you mentioned if your why doesn't make you cry. And that was one of the biggest takeaways I had from the whole event. And my why helping save someone from their 9 to 5 that's, making them extremely depressed and making them hopeless and causing them to feel stuck and just, not seeing a way out. Because that's how I felt when I was at the jail of like, this is it. Like, I'm either going to die from stress, I'm going to do something that I don't even want to talk about, or it's not going to end well. I need to get out of here. And I want to be that outlet to help someone and guide them out of their job.
That's so powerful.
Yeah.
So talk about that conversation a little bit, because we were total strangers.
Yeah.
Didn't know each other existed. And then we connect, and I feel like we were able to just kind of hit it off pretty quick and just talk about real life and go deep pretty quick. Just talk about that conversation a little bit.
Yeah. So we hooked up for lunch, and the conference room was like, everyone let out at the same time for conference. So getting a lunch was insane. So we got to spend time together in the line and just talk about our families and talk about the businesses we run and just kind of where we're at. And I kind of explained that I'm feeling kind of unfulfilled and stuck with what I'm doing right now currently. And I really want to figure out what it looks like to have more fulfillment and make more of an impact. The blog has been great. It helped us reach financial freedom, but those are not people that I'm interacting with. They come to our blog, they click a link, maybe we make some money, maybe they join our email list and we can email back and forth, but there's no real one-on-one connection, which is what I was missing, that impact part in the fulfillment. So we were walking back to the conference room after lunch. They gave us like 30 minutes, which is kind of ridiculous, but we were walking back and
5,000 people at the event, by the way, to give
insane. So we probably had like 10 minutes left, and we were just walking. We were on the escalator, and I think you asked something. You asked some type of question, and I was like, yeah, I can share that. So I started to share my testimony, and usually I'm surprised I was able to tell it on the podcast without breaking down. Usually I'm bawling. Like it hits me like a ton of bricks, and it is so hard to get through because I just relived that moment of being transformed by God, and it was so powerful. But yeah, I kind of broke down and was crying, and we were walking together, and you were just like encouraging me through that. And it was just, it's kind of surreal to be surrounded by other people at the conference and like pouring my heart out to this guy I just met and sharing my faith and my testimony, and you encouraging me through that, and, giving me the confidence to continue to share my story and to step into my calling and go all in all aspects of life. And it was awesome.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
So powerful.
Yeah.
We sometimes wait for permission. Like as silly as that sounds, like we're waiting for someone else to give us permission to go start this thing.
Yep.
To start a movement or to do something big. And then God already gave us permission.
Yep.
He already set us free. And he said, go and make disciples. And so we don't need to wait for permission for someone else in the escalator to tell us to go all in. Like, today's the day.
Yeah.
It's time to go.
Yeah.
Like Kellen said, surrender, let go, and let God have full reign and control of your life, and everything will change.
Mm-hmm. And it's not, faith's not easy, and letting go of control and giving it to God is not easy. It took me a year and a half of being the most miserable I've ever been in my life to finally realize, like, what am I doing? I'm trying to do this alone. I'm trying to carry this burden and this stress and this, depression by myself. And, letting go was the easiest, but the hardest thing ever. Because I knew in that moment I was all in on God, and there was no turning back, and it was for the rest of my life. And that's a commitment. And like I said, it was the easiest thing, but it was also the hardest to get to that point of finally being like, it's all you. I'm with you the rest of my life.
So powerful, dude.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
You
There's
bet.
people that are going to be touched by your testimony.
I hope so.
Scripture says, set free by the blood of the Lamb and the power of your testimony. And I don't fully understand it, but I've just seen it time and time again. When people share their story, it hits people in a way that nothing else will hit them.
Yeah.
I honor you for being willing to come on here and share that.
Absolutely. I love that about the entire conference that we went to is Russell leads by example. And he's all about storytelling, and he's all about his faith and his family first and stepping into your calling. And, to be in a room surrounded by so many entrepreneurs and people that are crushing it financially, and that they're crushing it most likely with their family and their faith and, all aspects of life, and going all in on their life and, becoming the best version of themselves was super inspiring to be around.
Yeah. So they say your network determines your net worth. Has that been true in your life? Like, have you seen that who you're around makes a big impact on your ability to create wealth?
Totally. I think, yeah, I've been blessed to have really good people in my life, especially in my high school. I have 3 high school buddies that we were best friends in high school, and through college, everyone would come home and we get together for the month we had off and all summer. And we have Marco Polo, which is just a voice messaging app. And we use it. And when I got home, we had one thread going and we talk everything. Like, we're super, super close to each other and can say anything to each other and trust each other that it stays within the group. And we just encourage each other to be the best men we can. And when I got home, I made 4 different threads. After talking to you, we made a faith, a family, a fitness, and a finance one. So now the conversations are a lot more broken up and more intentional. But that group of men has been incredible. Shout out Matt, Nate, Joe, just to be surrounded by me. And none of them are business owners either. They all have 9-to-5s. They love their jobs. And so those guys have been really crucial in my faith. And then as far as like the business side of things, I think I've always been surrounded by really good people as well. I was in a mastermind when we were first starting out with other business owners that were just starting out, and just having that weekly coaching call to bounce ideas off each other and encourage each other and, do that vision work together and really believe in each other and encourage each other was amazing. And then, yeah, my dad and mom are incredible examples of what a thriving marriage is. And, they're in their 70s now and still traveling the world and showing up for each other. And, so I've been extremely, extremely blessed to have the right people around me to help build what we are and what we do today, for sure.
That's so good. I'm actually going to do something terrible here. I'm going to step out.
Go for it.
Get my phone to my wife. It keeps blowing up.
No, you're good.
Distraction.
Yeah, no worries.
Hang on. 10 seconds. Hey, love. Don't worry, we'll cut that from the podcast.
No, all good. You don't need to cut it.
So in network, people in general, when you talk about network equals your net worth, I think they are assuming it's people that have higher net worth. I think there is some truth in that. But you talked about they're not even business owners, right? And we started a few months ago an all-in workout group. So people have come to our events that are local. We have a bunch of men that come Tuesday mornings at 5:30 and we'll work out together. And for me, what is the determining factor is commitment.
Yep.
It's as simple as that.
Yep.
When you're around highly committed men, everything starts to change because they're a mirror for you.
Yep.
And you're a mirror for them.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter if they make more or less, or it doesn't matter their circumstances. Like, how committed are they? They could be 50 pounds overweight, but they could be as committed as all hell.
Yep.
And that's the person that can inspire you.
Totally.
And call you to rise, right?
Yep. Absolutely. Love that.
Awesome.
Yeah, I have a couple. I'm not sure if you met Tom when we were at Funnel Hacker Live, but he lives 5 minutes down the road, and he's been an incredible mentor of mine. And he's a business coach, and he started after the conference. He's coming over once a month to work out together, and we go to each other's houses. And then I have another friend that comes once a week, and we work out together. And yeah, same thing. You can tell the commitment level of these guys and these men, and it just wears on to you as well, and it's awesome.
Yeah, my friend Alex, I don't think he listens to the podcast, but him and I started working out almost 2.5 years ago, and that was kind of where All In was born to a certain extent. And he was kind of the guinea pig. I called him out for coffee, and I was like, "Bro, you ready to rise? Like, you ready to go all in?" and it just hit him. He was ready, and he was just kind of floating through life, and his life radically changed over the next 6 months. But we started to meet every week and started to work out. Now, I'm a bit of a psycho. We were doing a Murph every week.
Wow.
For our workout. So we did that for 18 months.
Jeez.
A Murph every week, and just got shredded.
Nice.
And for anyone that doesn't know what a Murph is, it's a 1 mile run. It's 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 air squats, a 1 mile run. And RX version is with a 20-pound weighted vest on. And I've even done it with 40-pound weighted vest on. But it's just a brutal workout. It's like death in a workout. And we started doing that every week and just started to see everything in our life change, And but it was his commitment level. I was a business owner. He's not a business owner. He's an employee, still is. But when he started getting committed, we would do all that together. We'd inspire each other, and we have Marco Polo, so we were talking every day,
Nice.
holding each other accountable. It was just beautiful.
Yep.
And then just a few months ago, we started to invite all these other men into the group, and super powerful.
That's awesome.
Being around changes everything.
Love that.
So, what movement are you going to start?
What movement?
Yeah, you're a game changer.
I know.
What's it going to look like?
I want to start a movement of people figuring out that 9-to-5s are just going to keep you trapped. You're never going to get paid as much as you're worth at your job. You're making someone else rich. And that I think, at least 50% of people out there, they're meant to be entrepreneurs and not work for the man. And I want to start a movement of people making money online, taking their finances serious, taking their family serious, and really stepping into creating an income online so they can quit their job eventually.
I love that. What's holding you back? What's the next step?
Next step, time. Yeah, like we talked about when we first got on, my wife's got a business as well. So we're trying to dive into that and get that sorted out first, and then kind of come up with our offer for the Savvy Couple. We already have one that works really well, but we want to have more of a hands-on approach and a more transformative approach, and more of that coaching and one-on-one mentorship for our followers.
You'll be lights out at it, man.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
No, I see it in you. You've got it. We just, my wife and I, we just had a coaching call right before hopping on here. And it was actually the final call in our 30-day program called Launch. And this group of women is just so powerful. See how they've transformed in 30 days and what can happen in a person's life when you guide them through transformation. One thing that we say around here, I don't think I've ever said this in the podcast, but we say it at our events, is information without transformation is just inspiration. And you see that all over the place, all the hype, all this, it's just information, right? But then if there's no transformation, you're just inspired, you go home and nothing changes.
Yep.
But if you have transformation, then information, it equals implementation. So we're really heavy on the transformation piece, like changing your way of being so that when you get information, you can actually run with it.
Love that.
It doesn't matter how many times you tell somebody to work out, if they're not a disciplined person and they don't work out, the knowledge doesn't do them any good to know that if you work out, it'll change every area of your life. Like you can promise them you can do all the stuff. But until they become the person that will show up at the gym, regardless of whether they feel like it or not. And I think part of it is just a lie we tell ourselves that the people that show up consistently want to and feel like it. The reality is a lot of times we don't. We just do it anyway.
100%.
And I think there's a bit of a myth that you were waiting for this feeling, that all these other successful people have. That's a bunch of BS.
Yep.
Like, they just do it regardless.
Delayed gratification. Yep. You got to say those two things one more time for myself and everyone listening.
Yeah. Information without transformation is just inspiration. Transformation with information equals implementation.
Love it.
Results.
So good. I think that's so powerful too, because we're really into the AI and helping it within our business and utilizing it for its ability. And I think with AI, you literally have all the knowledge in the world with a prompt on a computer. Like there's never been a time where you can access literally all the knowledge in the entire world. It used to be go to the library, get your information. Then it went to, the World Wide Web, and now we have AI, which is crazy. I think it's so important to have that information, but like you said, you need to have that implementation before that, so you can actually use that knowledge to have the transformation. I think that's absolutely critical in kind of building the business that we want to build.
Yeah, and my vision is like I see you heading that direction, like changing people's lives, so that when you give them the blueprint of how do you step away, like they just go and their legacy changes. Like you're gonna change so many lives as you step into that. It's gonna be powerful, dude.
Yeah, I'm excited.
To see it.
Yes, sir.
So what would you say to somebody who right now is in their 9-to-5? It feels like a dead end. They're stressed. They're barely just making ends meet, but they feel like there's no other way. I don't even have time to look for another job, much less start a business. What would you say to that person that's stuck?
Wake up. I'd say take I got into the rat race as well. And, life's busy and you just kind of go through the motions and life's passing you by. It's passing you by. You feel this little bird in your head saying, hey, slow down. Let's like actually sit back and think for a second. And you don't. You just keep kind of going to work, doing the overtime, getting the paycheck, spending the paycheck, then it's back at it. I think the turning point for us in our relationship with my wife was we were newlyweds and we never got to see each other. She would work during the day. I'd work 3 to 11. We'd kind of cross paths at night. Going to the bathroom is pretty much the only time we saw each other. And it was miserable. We were brand new newlyweds. And I think we had a wake up call of like, this is not going to work, and I said, we got to slow down before we have kids and figure this out, because this ain't going to work. And I was nervous because I looked up statistics for law enforcement, and divorce rates are skyrocket because of the stress and the separate hours. And so we sat down one night and I kind of led the discussion of like, what would our ideal lifestyle look like? What would it look like if we could work from home and, we were making enough money where we were getting by and we weren't just living paycheck to paycheck, and we did have time freedom, and we weren't, stressed by our bosses or stressed by forced overtime. And, what would that look like and what would have to be true in order to make that happen? So we really did it the right way, which is pick our vision for our life first and planned out every aspect of that, what our faith looks like, what our family looks like, what our freedom looks like, what our marriage is going to look like, and really built our entire life around that vision. And we actually have it in a marriage money boot camp now that we sell. And it really helps you kind of visualize what you want your life to look like. And then you reverse engineer. All right, what's the type of business that I can create, or the type of side hustle I can create that, uses my passions, uses my skills, my abilities in order to start making money so that I can start building that life that I want and that vision that we have together. So it was like super important to first build the vision, and then the vehicle to get there is the business or the side hustle in order to get to that vision. But I would say slow down, really take some time. If you're not a man of faith, take some time and pray, try it out. Just talk to God like a normal person, like he's your best friend, and have that conversation and see what comes to your heart, and sit down with a pad of paper and a pencil with your wife and just draw out what your dream life would look like together, your life of freedom, complete all-in freedom. And then once you have the vision, you actually have the roadmap to get there. So now you just start building those stop points on how to get to the top and get to the end point, because you have the A to B transformation, what you want it to look like, and then it's just reverse engineering and putting the things in place to make it happen.
Love it. So end point, you mentioned when you get to the end point. Talked about that a little bit, because I think the end point is a bit of a myth. When people arrive, it doesn't feel like what they think it'll feel like, and it's a bit of a false summit. So
good.
So what's that been like in your life?
I'm so glad you brought that up. I always forget this too. Completely. I thought, my first end game was, this is the thing, the end game changes as you progress, and there's no end game. The end game is getting into heaven and building God's kingdom. But our worldly end game is, it's going to continue to move. My first end game was, let's make money online and see if I can make this idea of starting a blog and talking about personal finance and helping people, if we can make some money. We made $50. Boom, end game. All right, what's the next goal? All right, let's replace my income. Let's make $3,000 a month from this. Boom, did it. And then the next one was, let's get to $10,000 a month so my wife could quit her job, which was the biggest goal I ever set. I wrote it on my mirror. I said, retire Brittany. I looked at it every single day. I said, well, I have a picture of it. And that motivated the crap out of me to be like, all right, Brittany, you can be home with our kids and be the stay-at-home mom that you want to be. I can provide for you. You can be part of this business. You can start your own business. We'll have the freedom to do that. So we did that. When I reached that goal, that's when I realized, that was my moment of like, wow, there really is no end game. Because we reached that, and it was such a high, watching her back into the driveway for the last time and get out of that car and just embrace her with all the love that I had, that she was done, and we did it and we made it. But then it faded away. And within a week, I was like, oh, that's cool. What now? Like, what do I do now? I felt lost again. And I felt so confused of like, we did it. What, like this, we should be so happy. What's going on? And like the next 6 months, I was just like trying to figure out, like, why do I feel like just off. I don't feel like happy like I was when she retired, and like, what's going on? So I had to realize like the end goal continues to change, and you continue to progress and you continue to get better. And, money is never the end goal. And if you set money as the end goal, you're going to be severely disappointed in the end. You're going to be depressed. Definitely set time freedom as your number one. And you're going to be much more well off than the money, and the money, utilize that as the tool to get you there. But yeah, that was a big wake up call when I retired my wife and then felt upset about it and not happy long term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think what a lot of people buy into is this idea that at this point then,
Yep.
right? When this happens then,
Yep.
when we get the new car, when we get the new house, when our kids are this age, stop waiting for when and just go. Because the gift is in the pursuit. And so you mentioned when you retired your wife. That's amazing. I applaud that. That's awesome. Most people never do that, even if they want to. But the gift was in the pursuit of becoming the man that could retire your wife. Retiring your wife, that's just a little blip in the timeline. That's just a benchmark to show that you're on the track of progression. But life is this mountain with these false summits or these benchmarks, but it's an endless peak until we die. And so the gift is just in the pursuit of growth. And it's not ultimately about a goal. I'm a big goals guy. Like, we have a whole event that's just based on goals. That's all it is. It's really powerful. It's called the Breakthrough Blueprint. But the end of that is just to get somebody to wake up and to start growing so that they never stop growing.
Yep. Totally. I've found the same thing. The journey is everything. And that's where, progress is what makes me happy, and progress is what makes me proud. And knowing that I'm making progress every day, and I'm waking up and I just get 1% better in all aspects of life. That's my goal every single day. And, I always thought at the jail, like when I was at the jail, when I get out, I'll be happy. I'll never be sad again. I'll never be depressed again. And I realized that's not the case. Like you said, life has ups and downs, and you just got to be able to lean into the journey and don't push back your happiness just because of the place that you're in now. Some of the happiest days of my life were making zero money but grinding on the blog and learn how to make money online with my wife. That was such a special moment in our life together. Those, 6 to 9 months when we were really building it and learning it together, and that journey of like, we're going to make this happen. And then like euphoria when we made our first $50, and I was like, all right, I can do this. I'm going to quit my job. And it's just like enjoying the entire journey, has been incredible.
Yeah. I discovered that when we built this shop that I'm in now. I'm in the studio, but it's a 5,500 square foot facility on our own place. And that was, an impossible goal of mine, and that I set for the next 12 months was to build this shop. And I'd never made that kind of money at all. I'd made good money, but not the kind of money to build a facility from the ground up. And so when I broke all this down, and we have a blueprint of how you break down goals and how do you actually make them achievable and all this stuff. And so I was doing that, and I realized to be on track, like I had 6 weeks to put $100K in the bank account. It's like I'd never come close to that, but I did what was required. And 6 weeks later, to the day, I had $100K in the bank account.
Insane.
And then I just kept the momentum, and then we ground through it, and then boom, the shop's up, and all of our equipment's moved in because we have a cabinet shop, and so we built a cabinet shop, and then we have offices and stuff. And but then you get that done, and it was an amazing season, right? So fulfilling, so rewarding. But you think the reward is going to be at the end when the shop's built. The reward is in the journey.
Mm-hmm.
But it's only rewarding if you're progressing.
Yep.
It's only rewarding because you're expanding. And I think this life, this special gift that we all get, it's so hard to wrap our minds around. It's so complex. God just built this whole world and us as people in his image. But what is it all about?
Mm-hmm.
The answer I was always given was give God glory, to bring God glory. Like that's what I was taught growing up. So, okay, what does that look like? And how do you walk that out? And I know some people, like they're just super spiritual people. They just head down, study the Bible all the time, and give God glory. They just speak in these spiritualese terms all the time, and like they're not pleasant people to be around sometimes because they're just so heavy, with this weight. And it's like I think God's gift is just continual expansion and growth. Like God is so big, and if we're to become more like him, we have to expand. And it's in that pursuit of him, which is in growth, that we find that pursuit of him that is rewarding. And you can see it in any area of life. It doesn't matter whether it's faith, family, fitness, or finances. Like, all of it, you could be pursuing him in expansion.
Yeah. Amen. Beautiful. I love that. Absolutely.
Do you resonate with that? Like,
yeah, no, totally. Absolutely.
Kind of weird
I think it's a good analogy.
Cool.
Nope.
So we have we have a tradition on this podcast where the last guest asked a question not knowing who the next guest would be.
Sick. Love it.
And they actually asked a pretty generic question. That was just, what is the best business advice that you were ever given?
Best business advice ever given. It's a good question. Am I allowed to do like more than one or just one?
Just roll here. Go.
All right. I'll do, my very first one will be action over perfection. I think showing up and taking action. I'd rather take action and fail 4 or 5 times than wait around for perfection and never take action. I think, anyone that wins in the game of business and in the game of life, they take action. They realize how valuable their time is and how precious life is, and they utilize that to their advantage. So it's taking action. And then the second one, I got 3, I guess. The second, the second one is don't reinvent the wheel. The answer's already out there. You're not an inventor unless you are, but there's very few of them. Like, go see who's already succeeding at what you're doing and read their book, listen to their podcasts, watch their YouTube channel, call them on the phone if you got the balls to do that. But whatever it is, like, don't reinvent the wheel. The answer's already out there, and you don't need to, come up with something brand new to make it successful. Like, implement what's already working, and then you can pivot and make it your own and grow that way. And then the third one, of course, I'll forget. Action over perfection. Oh, double down on what's working. This is one that I feel like I'm caught up in right now. But anyways, it's doubling down on what's working. Focus is the key. And when you have something working within your business, continue to double down and squeeze it for as much as you can to grab as much money from that as you can and grow your business with that thing that's working before you go and shift your focus to another business or another opportunity within the business. Is really just double down on what's already, providing for you.
So good. Kellen, means the world that you come on here, take your time, your inspiration, keep going. We'll have all the links down below. Appreciate you, brother.
Cool. Appreciate it, Daniel.
All right. Now, you have to be able to tell what the next question is that we're going to ask the next guest. So you can think about it for a minute if you want.
What most of your guests are construction workers?
Our thing is, technically, that's our audience, but business owners who are husbands and fathers. Like,
okay.
That's our kind of our audience and also our guests.
Okay.
So we're speaking to that lifestyle.
Yeah. I got a good one I think that a lot of men deal with or struggle with is, how do you be present, completely present with your family on a daily basis?
Mm-hmm. It's a good one. I'm writing it down here so we don't forget. And also, when we get our editors to edit this podcast, we'll have different reels and clips we cut up, and then we'll also post the full episode. But we want to have any of your links so people can find you.
Sure.
If you want to email those over, just whatever links you want us to share, we'll just put them in the notes wherever we can.
Yep.
So people can. You drop some good ones there, and I think people want to see what you're up to. Family.
Sweet.
Daily. Awesome. Okay, I got it.
Cool. Can I get 5 minutes of your time real quick?
Sure. What you got?
Cool. So after the conference, we've been making really good progress, taking action. I feel like I'm at this spot of like trying to start this other business, but I keep getting called back to the Savvy Couple and sharing my story more. And my why is definitely helping people quit their 9-to-5 jobs. So I'm feeling like I don't know how to explain it. I'm still in this like figure it out phase of like, do I put the Savvy Couple on the back burner and let it cruise for now? Do I start this SaaS company to help local businesses, which I really want to get into that space? I'm kind of confused. From coaching so many people, from having some conversations with me, what advice would you give me to get clarity here?
Why are you wanting to start the SaaS company?
I think it's a great business model. I think it's protected from AI. I think I can have a big impact on local businesses and using the systems and marketing and sales and automations we've used in all of our businesses to help them grow and impact with their businesses.
I love it. So then why do you keep getting called back to Savvy Couple?
It's a good question. I know that we didn't sell it because that is my story. That is our transformation. That is my testimony. And I know that God wants us to continue to use that to build his kingdom and share our story. So I guess that's the biggest thing it's definitely tough running 3 businesses. And I'm in startup mode with the one. And my advice is to focus in. So it's figuring out what that looks like, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's what I would say. Shooting from the hip here. Get my opinion.
Yeah. Please.
Worth what you're paying for, right?
Yeah.
You're not in a spot of desperation. And so, you can pay for everything you need. You have some freedom. So I think now's the time to double down on impact. Not to double down on another business. Sure, start the other business later. I think it's great. But now, when you have the fire, when you have the freedom, you have the ability, figure out how to change the world with that. And you already have this platform with Savvy Couple. Why not leverage that and grow that? Just double down on that.
Mm-hmm.
You already have an audience there that's hard to build. You already have a brand there that's hard to build. You don't need to chase the SaaS company right now. And here is the key to why I say that. There's a book written called Outwitting the Devil. Have you heard of that book?
No.
Powerful book. I think it was written by Napoleon Hill, and who also wrote Think and Grow Rich. And Russell's his biggest fan, right? But what is so crazy about that book is it was not published. His family would not allow him to publish it because they knew all hell was going to break loose when they published this book. His children wouldn't allow him to publish it. So it ended up being 60 years after he died that they finally published this book called Outwitting the Devil. And the summary of this book is what he calls a definitive purpose, right? And even Russell mentions it sometimes, just super focused. And what Satan is trying to do is distract you. And for us as men of faith, he will distract us with good things. So we might not go to the pub or go golf all weekend or this kind of stuff. So he's going to distract us with good things. I call it level 1 impact. Meanwhile, we have a calling inside of us by God to make a level 10 impact. But we're so busy with the level 1 impact that it keeps us from building this thing that'll change the world.
Yeah.
What are you hearing in this?
I agree. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think that we're in a position where we're blessed, and that's my whole thing is I want to make sure I'm going down the right path and that I am making the most impact that I can. And I do feel like the SaaS company is kind of a distraction. And there's been 2 conversations now with my wife of talking it through and what we need to be focusing on. And, twice we've come to the conclusion of not right now. You got to put that on pause. And I've felt this weight lifted off my shoulders, and then I've come back to it again like an idiot. And yeah, I think it's a distraction right now.
So we say around here, clarity is power. And our definition of power is the ability to get someone or something from here to here in a short amount of time. And so when you get clarity that you need to put the SaaS company on hold, that's power to take Savvy Couple and expand it, right? The other thing we say is move at the pace of clarity. So as soon as you get clarity, go. If you don't have clarity, then wait or slow down until you get clarity. But don't be the man who gets the clarity and then keeps looking because he doesn't like the answer. Like, move at the pace of clarity. When God says go, just go.
Yeah.
And go all in.
Yeah.
And I don't think that I think that if you could see yourself even just 12 months from now, or let's expand a little more, 5 or 10 years from now, going down this journey of a SaaS company, becoming filthy rich, like helping a bunch of businesses and all this, like, cool, right? That's not a bad outcome. Versus going down high impact coaching where lives are transformed. Sorry, my camera's AI. If I wave my hands, it does stuff. I don't know what it does. But
You were saying something impactful, so I was zooming in on you.
okay, there you go. Lock in, Kevin. So when you go down this path of transformation and seeing lives set free, legacies changing, marriages coming together, like, dude, your life, if you got to pick and you could see the outcome, I don't think you would have a question anymore.
Yeah. Totally.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So when we started All In, this is a funny story because it was really impactful for me because I was the someday guy. I knew I was called to do this thing, to start this movement, but it was going to be someday, you know. It was, maybe after this certain benchmark, maybe after been married a certain amount of years, maybe after I've had so many kids, or like all these different BS things, that just excuses, right? But they sounded really good, I need to have more credibility. Who's going to listen to me, right? But I still had this message inside me, and I'd experienced this radical transformation in my life that just changed everything. And I was at an event. Satem Magali, he's one of the best coaches in the world, and it was his final immersion event. And he'd been doing it for almost 10 years. And he started with Garrett White. So he was Garrett White's trainer back when Garrett White started Wake Up Warrior.
Yeah.
And started Warrior Week. And he just kind of stole my excuses. And this was in November. It was in November, like 18th or something. I was at this event. And he's like, why wait? What are you waiting for? Are you waiting for permission? Like, what are you waiting for? Well, I had fear. What are people going to think about me? When you stand up and change and you're now outspoken about it and calling other people to rise, that's not socially acceptable.
Yeah.
A lot of people are going to say, oh, you're just condemning people. Whatever. Anyway, so I had all these excuses, all this fear that's going to keep me from moving, and all that was stripped away at that event. But I still didn't have the balls to tell my wife. So how this came about, like, I got clear that I was going to run an event in 2024. This was fall of 2023. And I was like, I'm going to run an event in 2024. I had no branding. I had no name. All I had was a vision and a passion. With a bunch of excuses that got stripped away. So that was November. My wife finds out in December when I'm writing our yearly newsletter. And I put in the newsletter, we're starting this thing called All In. And we're going to run an event in June of 2024. And here's the email if you have any questions. allincoachinginfo@gmail.com. I literally just made the email just for that newsletter.
Mm-hmm.
And sent it out to all our friends. Like 350 people got this newsletter. We had nothing. This was December of 2023. We had nothing. We ran 8 events. We just are finishing our 8th event in the last 10 months.
Wild,
right?
Mm-hmm.
Definite purpose, okay? Now, is it easy? No. It's a lot of resistance. We went from 0 to 100 miles an hour very, very fast and getting people to fill the rooms and all this stuff. And we have 3 different event types we run right now. And we're getting ready to change our offer. But just to see the transformation that can happen in people's lives when you answer the call. And just the reality of thinking, like, how marriages have been changed and how people have started their own, showing up in their own events and movements kind of stuff. And it's just so powerful to see and realizing that there was a moment of decision where I could go all in the passion calling God gave me, or I could follow some other path. And I chose to go all in and answer the call, even though we didn't have the map. Like, we didn't have the branding and the logos and I'd never spoken at an event. And it was actually kind of funny. My coach, in April, I was at his house in Vegas. And we were talking about this because I was going to run this all-in experience, which is this intense 3-day, which I highly recommend you go to. You'll love it. Super powerful. And I was going to run this event. and it was going to be the world class, and be the best event anyone's ever come to. And he's like, have you ever run an event before? No. I was just so committed and so passionate. I was like, I'm going to get these people there, and their lives are going to change. Like, everything's going to change for them. And he's like, you should run an event before. And he's like, you should run a half-day event and get practice. Like, have some food there, have a videographer, like, figure out how to fill the seats, sell tickets, all this stuff. And then do a full-day event. So you get, the experience of speaking for a whole day, and get some skill sets. I was like, okay, so this was April. And it's like, we have this all experience coming up really soon. And so we created an event called the Breakthrough Blueprint. Again, we had nothing. I came up with the name. I came up with our 5 points, like all this stuff. And this was just practice. And I brought the fire. There was 20 people or 22 people in the room, something like that. And I brought the fire. And it was just a practice run. Yeah. And then lives changed. But we're supposed to have an upsell. So we had this upsell called Launch. And it's this 30-day program in the app with daily homework and accountability and community. But it starts with a full day in person where you're going over mindset and identity and all these roadblocks that hold people back. And so, at the end of Breakthrough Blueprint, I do this upsell, and people signed up. And again, this is all just practice for all an experience. And then we do Launch, and lives changed. And so now we've done Breakthrough Blueprint and Launch over and over again. Yeah. We've only done one all-in experience. Wow. We're getting ready to do a bunch more of them. But you just go. Like, you don't necessarily know. My vision was just all an experience, but then God just steered me over here and changed all these lives in this other lane. And so as you go, you'll get more clarity, and just keep operating out of clarity. Move at the pace of clarity.
Love it. Beautiful.
Is that helpful? Does that answer your question?
It is. Yeah. Stuff to ponder, and I need to sit and get more clarity. And my mentors said the same thing. Instead of jumping in and just continue to take action, I got to step back and really get the vision and what God wants me to do.
Dude, turn Savvy Couple into, and you can rename it, doesn't matter. But go change the world, man.
Yeah.
There's people that are waiting for Kellen and his story. And they're not going to see you until you get out there and just go all in. You're welcome. Love you, man. Stay connected. Yeah, bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the All In Podcast. As always, anything we talked about, all the links are down below if you want to follow up with us. And if you could do us a massive favor, and wherever you're listening or watching this podcast, give us a thumbs up and leave us a 5-star review. And then share this episode with somebody who you think might get value from it. Until next time, go all in.